I want to try something new. I've never done with any podcast before. So here we go. Theme song in 3, 2, 1. This week on Late Night Lately, the very first episode, Chad tries to do his best to start the show, other stuff, and what will happen over the course of this podcast. Now, here's Late Night Lately, your host, Chad White. First, before the song finished. We'll keep it in. It's fine. Welcome to Late Night Lately, the third podcast from the C Plus Comedy Empire, podcasting empire. This is the late night, the spinoff of the Constitutionals podcast, where I cover the late night landscape. I love late night so much, I said I might as well make a show about it. The show's called Late Night Lately, tagline, the late night show. I couldn't. There were 3 names floating around, and I was like, this one's even funnier. So I chose that. Typically, how this show will start out is I would intro the show, sort of the way I did it, and but better. I made that song in like less than 5 minutes. If you want to know, the door to my balcony is open, and Nova is out there. Sleeping away. Also with this show, I want to cover late night, what happened the best of late night that week. Stories, not like news stories, but like stories coming from the world of late night, and not just ratings or anything, but things along the line of, I just want to make late night a little bit more accessible. I think late night's a very good medium, and unfortunately, the rising tide of the internet and the drop in watching of broadcast has made it less necessary. But I still think that there is a way for it to exist. Yes. Usually this show would start out with a monologue of some jokes. I did not have any monologue this week. Let's just get to the stories that I wrote down a couple of weeks ago. Let's start with our first segment. This Week in Late Night, which was the original title of the show, if you can believe it or not. This Week in Late Night is just going to be the things that happened this week. What was good? Who had good monologues, good jokes? Not talk about what's the worst, not the best and the worst. Just like, what was good? All right, let's start with my boy over there at Late Night with Seth Meyers. Seth is my leading person I watch right now. Jesus Christ, Penn Bagley looks horrible. Got this beard. He looks like he killed somebody. He was on Late Night with Seth Meyers last night. Of course, Seth had his things like Closer Look and typical segments like Amber Says What? But he also had guests this week like Taylor Schilling and Eddie Izzard and I feel like I'm missing. This just says like 3 days ago were episodes. Today's Thursday, I guess so. Fred Armisen was back. Reese Witherspoon, Paula Pell, Michael Solomon, Judd Hirsch. I'm not going to go over everybody. Justice Smith. Seth is definitely one of my favorites, and I love watching his monologue. It feels like a mini version of the show he used to do, Weekend Update, on the segment he used to do on SNL. Seth is one of the few people to still have like cooks on, and sometimes comedians. He sometimes has comedians doing stand up, but that's more. That used to be a thing of the Tonight Show where you have a stand up do their set, and then they come over and say hi to John, or Johnny's like, yeah, come over. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it didn't. This week's Closer Looks were fantastic. They were very funny, as always. I have a playlist called Late Night Bests, and it is usually where I put everything that I love the most. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, Talk Show Best, excuse me, because there were too many talk shows that were not even late night that I added to the list. All right, Talk Show Best. I upload. Let's see what I added this week. Okay, nothing from this. Okay, perfect, awesome, wonderful. Oh, let's see. Oh, I'm gonna go with my leading thing for late night was for late night with Seth Meyers was Amber Says What. She covered the Grammys. She covered Beyonce's tour. She did African American studies and had a great runner in there. That was definitely a highlight. And you know what? Also, I want to cover the Daily Show. They've been doing guest hosts up until they find permanent replacements for Trevor Noah, which we'll get to in a second. This week was Chelsea Handler. 2 weeks ago, it was Leslie Jones, and then after that, Wanda Sykes, and then after that, D.L. Hughley. One of those people, it seems like they have not been in front of a camera for a very long time. It was D.L. Hughley. He seemed to be a little bit reading the prompter was a little bit tough for him, especially in that first show. But I think he held up pretty admirably well. Wanda was definitely a very good to see in that seat. And you know the thing about and Leslie was fantastic. I just like it's amazing that she's such a funny person. Like even when she messes up, it's just funny. Oh, and Chelsea's just brilliant. Like oh my gosh, she's built for late night. It's crazy. I'm sorry, I hit the desk. It's crazy how somebody can just be a host. Now like in today's world, she is like a quintessential host, like a version of a host. Like if the people who host late night shows right now on broadcasts are hosts, she is the host. It's great, and I would love to see her return in some form to Chelsea Lately or whatever, Chelsea on Netflix, because I liked both of those shows. I didn't watch them all the time. In fact, I think I only saw like one or two episodes of Chelsea, but she's still so good at hosting, and she did not miss a beat. But yeah, I don't think any of these people that are guest hosting are trying out for the show. I think it's just a completely different beast. Okay, let's move on. I don't want to dwell too long on these. Let's go to Jimmy Kimmel. I like Kimmel a lot. I did not watch a lot of Kimmel this week, and mostly because I believe he's off. So that's good. That is a reason why I did not watch him. Kimmel's great though. I miss him. Very funny guy, and I think, and this will segue into to Stephen Colbert. I think that the prepared tapes that they have, like the commercials, the fake commercials they do, aren't very good and they're not very funny. And I just don't like it that much. But other than that, his monologue is so great. It's kind of it's as if he's not even reading most of the time. Colbert was off as well. I am getting so many notifications from the not New York Times, NPR, and it's frustrating. They just redid their app, and it is not good. Colbert is great. He's been off all week. I do have my own. There are things about his show that kind of bother me, but we'll talk about that when he gets back. And then let's see who else. What's his name? Fallon. I'm looking at him right now. Fallon was on this week. Had people like Queen Latifah, M. Night Shyamalan, Ashton Kutcher, who kind of Ashton Kutcher like kind of was like, Danny Masterson should he should be exonerated. Like no, dude, come on. Anyways, there's one thing I want to mention was that the Roots were gone for the Grammys last Friday, and Paul Schaefer Fallon brought in Paul Schaefer's band and Paul Schaefer as well, the Most Dangerous band, to take their place for that night, and it was fantastic. I do have my own issues with Fallon, but I think he's very funny. He has a lot of energy, and he's a great guy, if not misguided, on some of these interviews that he does. I do enjoy the games he plays. They're not my bag, and I don't watch all of them, but I do like it. And the best thing that came from him this week were probably the day after the Grammys, where he just talked to Questlove about what the things that they did at the Grammys. Fantastic. And then we have the Late Late Show with James Corden, which is, James, he did his best for the past couple years, and he's sunsetting it on his own. He had Shania Twain on. I think it feels like I'm missing several videos because a lot of these say like 7 or 8 days ago, but then there's like 4 days ago. And anyway, whatever. Jay Ellis, Kirby Howell Baptiste, and nothing really stood out in this. And nothing really has to. He's going to go until April, and that's the end of that. Then Graham Norton returns this week. Last Week Tonight is off the air, and I don't watch Bill Maher. So there you go. Oh, and Amber Ruffin's show is on some type of 7-month hiatus. Like they only do episodes like every 3 months or so. All right, that's that. That's what's happening. So let's get into some stories that I've collected. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter, written by Leslie Goldberg. The Daily Show is going to continue without Trevor Noah. That much we know. He said he was leaving the show, and then people it was announced that this comes from Deadline. Peter White. The Daily Show is going to bring in Chelsea Handler, Kal Penn, Al Franken, Sarah Silverman, Leslie Jones, and some other people to host. The question is, can The Daily Show, as posed by Daniel D'Addario from Variety, can the show survive? Trevor brought that show into the new world, into the 21st century. Whereas I kind of think that John Stewart, who hired Trevor Noah, kind of kept it in the past, mostly because Trevor is, even though being from Africa, he's like the new America, where he's a young, handsome, brown guy who can deliver the news promptly, and even though he did kind of defend Joe Rogan for a day, I think the clue is not to make bold statements as a host. They'll be like, he's not that bad, and then that same day, who was an NDRE was like, he's horrible, and then Trevor's like, okay, well, he's bad. And then, along the same time, Corden announced that he was leaving, and then Trevor announced that he was leaving. Paramount Global is going to have to do a giant shift. This comes from Variety, written by Brian Steinberg. When it comes to these two exits, they're going to have one host left in these major names. I mean, obviously, they have other shows on their Paramount networks that are, I guess, are technically late night established shows, but I'm not going to count those. I'm not going to watch those. Paramount Global has to find some way, or just Paramount has to find some way to cover all these people leaving. Sorry, just got a text today. It's very important. I had to look at it. Lacey Rose and Leslie Goldberg also write for The Hollywood Reporter. Comedy Central is going to find itself in a crisis mode. And right now we're kind of seeing a shift for Comedy Central. Everything is going to be animation. They moved Beavis and Butthead over to Comedy Central. South Park is back, but only in increments. I think they only do 9 or 10 episodes. Sorry, I just saw a text. It was a very funny text. I'll tell you later. No, I can't. Anyway, what happens for Comedy Central? They were never excuse me, ever able to find a show to replace or to follow The Daily Show, which is something they need. So they expanded The Daily Show out to 40 minutes, some episodes. Sometimes it's 28, but it runs for 45 minutes. And sometimes it's just a regular 22-minute episode. Sometimes it's 40-minute episodes. What's going to happen for Comedy Central, whose demographic is 18 to 49, apparently. One idea for The Daily Show was that two hosts would take over, duos or trios or what have you. Desi Lydic and Roy Wood Jr. are in the run, are rumored to be in the running. Rumored to be in the running. I think that would definitely work. Sam B is off the air of TBS, and I mean, is like that show's canceled, and I think that she'd be a great. I mean, obviously she was a correspondent on the show, but it'd be fun to see her come back. But I don't think that's a possibility at this point because now we see. Hold on, I have to get to this. I have so many stories I have to get to. Is there a future for late night talk shows? This comes from John Coblin and Benjamin Mullen over at New York Times. Can these shows of yesteryear, because they're still, I mean, as much as they have embraced doing internet stuff, these shows are still living in the past because they're from the past. They especially the broadcast shows, with the exception of Corden, they found they keep that same kind of notion of intro, monologue, segment, guest, depending on the show, segment, second guest, depending on the show, musical act or comedy, stand up. And not even a lot of them do stand up anymore. I would be like, I'm surprised when there's a stand up on Colbert. I'm surprised when there's a stand up on Kimmel. On Fallon, they do it like regularly enough that it's kind of not surprising. Conan was the only one that did it consistently. I missed that. I miss, like, stand up is a huge part of this. It's great to see Måneskin play I wanna be a bang bang wanna be a bang bang. But why should this continue to be? And that's why I mentioned Corden, because Corden he brought the a British and English side to it as a panel. How many times do you see in American talk shows? And I'm not talking about The View. I'm not talking about I don't know, a Bravo late night show where they have Watch What's Happening Live, when they have like the Real Housewives recaps, reunion shows, or the Bachelor reunion shows. I'm talking like he same thing that Graham Norton did, or does rather, is they bring out panels, like just a group of the celebrities, and they're all talking and hanging out. And it does seem kind of haphazard, especially to the American eye. But if you watch Graham Norton regularly, then you can, and you know, to some extent, Corden, you can see what Corden is trying to do by engaging all those people at once. Because it just makes for a faster show, if not frenetic, but a faster show. And also, what's noted in this article on the Times from Coblin and Mullen is that late night has struggled outside of broadcasting and outside of the internet. Late night has struggled in terms of streaming. Hulu canceled the Sarah Silverman show, which didn't make sense. I think Sarah Silverman's show could have gone on. It could still be on today. It's I Love You America. It was a funny show, and Netflix just never understood what it took to do a late night show. They gave, I think, four people, right? Yeah, Chelsea. You know what? I'm not gonna consider Joel McHale's show a late night show, but it is a talk show. So Chelsea, Joel McHale, Michelle Williams, and Hassan Minaj. They gave four people four decent shows. And they never understood that these are late night shows. So they're either once a week or four times a week, and it's not going to have the same kind of feedback as or response, or the same kind of viewership numbers as a Stranger Things. You're not going to have 15 million people watch one episode and then 11 million people watch the second episode. That's not going to happen for a late night show. So they should have gone in with low expectations. I'm sure they made those shows for cheap. So why would it make sense to not continue on with those programs? We should still see Michelle Wolf, not Michelle Williams. We should still see Michelle Wolf's show on. I like that one out of the entire bunch. I liked Hassan's a lot. I do think that it relied a lot on that audience and clapping at every line he said. Oh my God. But his was the most slick. It definitely was the most beautiful. That video screen was fantastic. Also, revenue's fallen for late night shows. The first 6 months of 2021, according to Coblin and Mullen, the four late night shows on network television took in a total of $301 million in advertising revenue, according to Kantar. Through the first 6 months of 2022, that figure fell to 16% at $253.6 million. Seth Meyers' show generated $24.6 million in advertising revenue through the first 6 months of 2021, compared with the $19 million in the first 6 months of 2022. Yeah, ratings have slipped from Carson's day, but it's different. And then you see another show I did not want to talk about, but another show, Greg Gutfeld's show on Fox News. This comes from Deadline, written by Peter White. He did a little interview with Greg Gutfeld that I did read. That I do not agree with this man. I do not like this man, and I've seen a clip. I've seen clips of the show. I've seen specifically. I tried twice to go on incognito mode on YouTube and look up the show. And what's unfortunate about Gutfeld's show over there, or is it Gutfield or Gutfeld? Gutfeld's show over on Fox News is that his viewership numbers have skyrocketed. They're so high. Like, racists love unfunny comedy and Marvel movies and Disney movies. You heard me. Between the beginning of August and the first week of October, Gutfeld brought in an average of 2.15 million viewers using the live plus same day metric, according to Nielsen Media Research. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to Colbert and Fallon, those two shows are lucky if they get 1 million. They're fighting for scraps. You know what I do? There is one thing that in this interview that stood out to me is that Gutfeld said audiences don't like to be lectured to, and that is something I can attribute to one show, Last Week Tonight. I think every episode, John Oliver does lecture, and it does get beside the point a lot. But other than that, I really I don't like Gutfeld. And it grosses me out that I even have that in my URL. Okay. Now we're seeing machinations of what might happen, or what is going to happen when it comes to the future of late night, at least for CBS. Because according to Peter White and Nelly Andreeva at Deadline, the Late Late Show with James Corden is going to be replaced with an At Midnight reboot, executive produced by Stephen Colbert, which is a stupid idea. If you recall, At Midnight was a late night, was the show that followed The Daily Show for a couple of years over there on Comedy Central. Hosted by Chris Hardwick, it had a panel of comedians basically responding with one-sentence quips to things that happened on the internet of the day. It was very fast-paced, and I enjoyed it. I didn't watch every episode. I tried to when it first came on, but it was 4 times a week, and that's just tough to do. But it was great because you would have like the cast of Parks and Rec. You'd have 3 stand-ups that you really like. You have 3 improv people you really like. And it gave a lot of people jobs. It gave people notoriety. Because this was 2013 to 2017. This was like the height of Twitter. This was, YouTube before it became super trashy. This was internet on TV. It was internet on TV. It's so stupid. But they had 600 episodes. And now it's probably, most likely, more than likely, taking over the Late Late Show time slot at 12:30. I don't, I just don't. I don't agree with this. I enjoyed the show the first time, and I think it should kind of stay on. It would not kind of. It should definitely stay on Comedy Central because it doesn't make sense for a show that thrives on risque jokes, for it to live on broadcast TV. And the thing is, it was written a lot. All the jokes were written, with the exception of like some off the cuff stuff. And it there's going to be such. I think Paramount, as much leeway as they give the Late Late Show with James Corden, because some of the things that happen on there are just like, why is this here? They're going to be kind of. I feel like they're going to be kind of handholdy with At Midnight. And the thing about At Midnight is it didn't thrive on A-listers. It was all B and C list comedians. That's it. Like that's who it was. It was Ron Funches. It was Jonah Ray. It was Matt Myra. It was people who, I'll name a woman. Let's see. I'll name one. Joe Firestone, Lauren Lapkus. It would. I mean, that's how it became so popular. Is because you had all these comedy nerds just tuning in and wanting to do a new show. I liked it a lot. I think Hardwick was the reason why that show was so good because he just has that frenetic energy to keep things going. CBS president and CEO George Cheeks is probably the reason why this is happening. CBS also aimed to trim the cost of the 12:30 a.m. hour from just north of $60 million a year it takes to make the Late Late Show to roughly $35 million a year range. And what does Stephen Colbert know about this show anyway? I'm sure this is what I'm like. I guarantee this is exactly what happened. George Cheeks and a bunch of higher ups execs were like, what are we gonna do to bring in more people for Late Late Show? And they said they were like, well, we could mine the resources because you bring in a new show, it's going to cost an unknown amount of money. But if you mine the resources from the back end, what do you have in your catalog? Boom, At Midnight. People love that. And that'll be a good way to have internet people tuning in. The Late Late Show will be missed. And if this does happen, then that would be a shame. But Craig Ferguson was definitely my favorite host for Late Late Show. Despite the fact I never seen Tom Snyder or Craig Kilborn host the show. I don't think I've even seen clips of Craig Kilborn host Late Late Show. But I do have a theory. If they do, how long has it been going on? If they do, if they do this At Midnight thing, I think it'll be a lot of internet first stuff. So they won't worry about viewership on broadcast, and they'll shift Colbert by a couple of minutes. So it airs at 11:30 already. So that'll be fine. The reason why I'm thinking this is that it'll be like internet focused mostly, is because the NBC has been playing with the idea of giving back the 10 o'clock hour to local affiliates. So my reasoning would be if that does happen, and then also there was a rumor that I read that I don't think is true, but if it is, more power to him. That Seth Meyers would take over for Lorne Michaels when he leaves SNL at season 50, which is in 2 years, I think, or next year after next. I looked at the clock as if that would tell me the truth. So if Seth leaves late night. They move Fallon up to like 11:15, something like that, and they don't worry about having a successor for late night. CBS or 11:45. I don't know. I don't care. Or 11:35. That's typically what they would do. Because I think, because Colbert starts at 11:35 and Fallon starts at 11:30. Something like that. I don't know. So Fallon would shift and just be the only late night person on NBC. Kimmel will, live out the rest of his 5-year contract, or however many more years is on his contract. And Colbert becomes the only person on late night for CBS. And then we're down 2 shows. I don't know. That's just a guess. Okay. Well, that's the Jesus, what is the show called? That is Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show podcast. The Late Night Show, not podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be hopefully a theme song next week. And yeah, that's it. Okay. We got it. That was the episode. Okay. That's the end. How do I? If you want to see a video version of the show, go to youtube.com/C+comedy, where you can also see our other 2 podcasts. The first is the leading podcast, The Constitutionals, where I talk about everything that's happening in the entertainment business news world. I also host another podcast called LinkedIn Logs, where I try to get a job, and that is the end. And I try to be a LinkedIn influencer. We also have our weekly news show, News Time, which is like the Daily Show, except bad. And rate, review, subscribe to all of these shows on your wherever you get podcasts, and you watch them on youtube.com/C+comedy. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at C+comedy. Follow me on those, not TikTok, at Chad Black White. Tell your friends about it, and this has been fun. We're going to go out to the same song, and hopefully we'll never have to hear it again.